Buttons! Now, it's a bit pointless getting into a game over scene like I've got here when you can't actually like go back to the main menu, which I haven't made here on my scenes. I've just got my sample scene and my game over scene, which is what we can see. Maybe another button to quit the game because you've got so frustrated you've had enough of it, or even restart the level so you can have another crack at it. So this video is going to be about showing how you can use the UI side of things to add buttons, and there's also button text mesh pros you can use to kind of, I don't know, go and download some fancy ones. And the second half of it will be actually using images you've made yourself and brought in as assets to make those into buttons. But first things first, I'm going to need to stop the game playing because I can't actually do anything when it's playing. And I'm going to add a UI button, which it dumps right in the middle of the screen, which is great. And I'm just going to move it down so it's kind of where I want it to be. And I've used that tool there to make that move. Now you'll notice over on the right hand side it kind of gives us all these different options for the button. So what color it looks like, what it'll look like when I'm highlighting it, what color it'll change to if I press it. Now I'm not actually going to mess around with the pressing side of things because my plan is when I click on it, it will take me somewhere else. So it's a bit, I'm not really going to touch that point at all. But just to get a little bit closer to it, so if I double click on button, I can change the color of the button as it is. I actually want to go for like a bluey type of color, and I can also change the highlight color. Let's go for a red this time then. Now, there's no kind of plan with this at all. It's just something I wanted to just kind of show you how you do change the colors. Now you might have noticed, but our button text itself is a bit difficult to see. But over on the left hand side where it does say button within our canvas, there's an arrow next to it which allows us to click on text. And where it says text, then we can type in what it is we want it to do, the button, so it's going to restart. I'm also going to change the color so it's actually seeable, and in fact I'm going to type in the hash code for it, so it hopefully by now you know that 6F gives you white. And the other thing, the font style. Now, like I said previously, if you've actually brought font styles in, you can use those again on these buttons then, so it's kind of always within your project. So Super Mario 256. And the only thing I want to point out is when I've done text in the past, I've kind of changed these both here to overflow. So if I increase the font size or something, it can go as big as I want it to go. But because it's not on overflow here, you'll see when it does get too big, it'll basically say can't fit it in. So I'm just going to kind of readjust that to be the size I want it to be. And then quite quick, just want to press play to show you what happens when you actually hover over it to show you that it does change color. So I'm in the game over scene, so we'll load up the game over scene, and as I put the cursor over it, it goes from the blue to the red, and I can kind of just point that out. They're the colors I've used, and if I wanted to, I could mess around with the colors here to make sure that it looks just like I want it to as the game is kind of playing. But anyway, at this point, it doesn't do anything. So if I click on it, nothing happens at all, apart from the fact it goes that grey whitey color because I pressed on it. So what we're going to need to do is add a bit of script to this now then. So if I go to add component and new script, and I'm going to call this script, if I can write, restart button behavior. And the reason why I've called it restart button behavior is because some of the graphics I'm going to use later are actually called restart buttons, and sometimes it doesn't like restart, but well, it doesn't actually like a procedure or a bit of code or a script called something which is the same name as something which you've got as an asset. It kind of doesn't work properly. So anyway, that's why I've added behavior on the ends. And once I've created that, it loads up here, and I'll double click it to open it up in Visual Studio for us. And I'm going to get rid of those top two lines. I'm also going to get rid of all these bits as well. And I'm literally just going to add a couple of things in here. So the first thing I need to add in, because the fact is I'm going to click on restart and it's going to load up or restart the level to let me have another go at it. I need to use scene management, so using Unity Engine.scene management, which I'll copy across now and paste it in the place right there. And the only other thing I really need to add to this, and I'll kind of explain it when it's in there, it's quite straightforward actually to look at what it does, are these kind of 4 lines of code here, and pop them in there. And basically what this means is when the button is pressed, and this is what this on button press thing is, it identifies that as a process, then that's why it's in brown. It will load up our sample scene, because that's what my scene is called for the beginning of the level. So I'm just going to save that, Control S, go back onto Unity, and it will do its little thing and tell me if there's any errors on it, and 100% it will not fail, he says with all optimism. Right, so there it is. And really, what you think now is you press play and it should do its job because our restart has actually got this bit attached to here. Now, however, on click list is empty on the button part. We actually need to add what it is, which is going to be clicked on. I know it sounds stupid, but the none object bit there, it actually wants us to drag across the button. And on a no function on game object, I think it's game object, or is it too? I'm looking for the restart button behavior I set up. I got a feeling it'll be, oh, there it is, restart button behavior, and where's it gone then? A bit of code. Am I being stupid? So on button press, that's what it was called, wasn't it? So it's called on button press, and hopefully, if I just press save on that, and when I run it, it should do what it did previously then, so it changes color when I hover over it. But this time when I press it, I'm hoping that by changing those little bits down here, which I did, it should open up our sample scene. Yay! So that bit worked. Fantastic. Right. So like I said, you can actually use the UI side of things then to actually add a button in, which is great. But I'm actually going to delete what I've got here a second because I want to show you a couple of other things. Oh, in fact, should I have done that? Yeah, because there is one which is application.quit, which basically if that was a quit button, and I'll come back onto here because I don't actually need to show you it working, I just want to show you what the code is for it. There is a bit of code down here somewhere, which is this part here, application.quit. Now the reason why I've got closes the game question mark, question mark, question mark. Now when you actually run that particular command within this environment, within the Unity environment, when you click on quit, it doesn't actually do anything. But when you actually export the game, you finished game, and you click on that button, which will be a quit button, and it does that application.quit thing, it will close down the Unity kind of environment runner, whatever it is it's running in the executable file. But like I said, that's that little bit of code there. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you, and like I said, I've closed down that part there, and I'm actually going to get rid of the restart button there. I'm also going to get rid of a restart button here when it decides to let me do it. And this is only if you want to kind of do your own graphics the second half of the video. So if you're happy with using these type of videos, then by all means stop now. But like I said, I've actually got my own restart buttons here. So I'm going to drag, first of all, this one onto the scene. No, in fact, that's not a good idea. I'm going to go onto the main camera to do this. And I'm going to drag that onto here. And if I click on game, I can kind of see where it is. So if I wanted to, I can make it bigger, make it smaller, drag it across, and so on to get it into position. In fact, for this point, I'm actually going to put it more or less in the middle. That'll do at this point, because it's more important to actually show you how to code this. So our restart button, we need to add a box collider to it. Now we're not actually going to make it kind of fall down or anything like that, but the code I'm going to add to my own image won't work unless there's a box collider added to it. I don't know why, but that's just the way it is. And I'm actually going to add a component, and this time I'm going to do a new script, and again I'm going to do restart button behavior. And remember, I deleted the code from earlier, so I could actually do this one myself then, and it loads up for us. And when it loads up in Visual Studio, momentarily, what other words can I use instead of, there we go. I'm actually now going to go back onto my Word document and just scroll up a little bit from the application.quit bit, and I'm actually going to just use, which bit is I'm going to use? I'm actually going to use this bit. So I'm going to use scene management again, because that needs to be in there because the plan is to restart the level. And you're probably thinking, well, why did I delete the stuff from before? I find it's easier to start with a fresh new script, to be honest, rather than trying to add to things. I'm going to get rid of these bits as well. And I'm just going to copy and paste all the stuff which I've got here. And I'll kind of try to explain that as we go along then as well. So let's pop that into this spot. I think I need to highlight that bit as well. And let's just make sure everything lines up. Yeah, so it looks like the parentheses are all in the right place. Let me just save that. Now, the idea is When we actually click on that button, so our restart graphic, it will take us to the sample scene. That's pretty much exactly like what we did before. Now, the only difference is it's on mouse up. For whatever reason, when I did the on button thing with this, it didn't work, but on mouse up always works. So that basically means when you click and let go, so you let go of the mouse left key mouse button, it will load up this scene. But I've also got these bits on here, which are mouse over and mouse exit. So this is basically when you're hovering over an image. So I've got two sprites. One is my restart button hover, and back on here, and it's going to do the load up bit. That's going to be my hover. So when it's white when it's on scene, but I want it to change to yellow when I hover over it. And you might be thinking, well, what was the point in doing this? Because you could do that with your own graphics, but I've tried to do my own like kind of gradient effect on the back of this here. And the idea is then when I move away from the button, it will go back to its original image, which will be the restart button image. So these two sprites, these two bits here, if we go back onto this then, and I click on my restart button, down within my code, you'll see restart button hover. So what do I want to be the hover image? It's going to be that image here. And what do I want it to be the original image? Now you think, well, that is the original image, but you still need to tell it, but you want it to go back to that as well. So when I press play, and hopefully I haven't rushed through this too much in terms of showing you how to do it, but it is quite straightforward when you know how to do it. And hopefully this time when I press play and I've got my game over, when I hover over it, it changes color. So it goes to my restart button, this one down here, the yellow one. And when I take the mouse off the button, then it goes back to its original form. And when I click on it, so this is the OnMouseUp thing, it loads up the game. So you can actually use these different, you can use the UI stuff to make buttons, or you could potentially bring in your own buttons which you've made yourself and you've done your own little rollover effect on as well.